According to most studies, people's number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death. Does that sound right? This means to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. I remember reading this quote a couple of years ago, and it made me laugh. I'm no exception, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bana, and my passion is public speaking. Let me take you to a story. Let me remind you of something I've encountered myself. I'm thrilled to be part of Lightning Talks today, be here and talk to you about something dear to my heart. However, this has never been the case before. I was 17 years old. I was standing in front of 1,200 people giving my commencement speech. I was honored to be there and talking to the graduating class of 2008. However, it was ironic at the same time. I really was looking for the exit door the whole time. I felt that I'm going to pee on myself for the 10th time already. And I just wanted to leave. I was telling myself to calm down and just talk freely and do what I do best. However, it hit me. I was talking to the graduating class of 2008 and telling them about life, to dare, to dream, not to be afraid of making mistakes. However, I was standing there quivering and afraid of making my own mistakes in my own speech. When it suddenly hit me. It hit me so hard that I actually changed my speech. I actually decided to say the truth. And the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, is like a speech, life is very similar. You make mistakes, you might forget a few lines, you're nervous, I am a bit nervous myself today. However, you just stand up, try, and make the best out of it, and pretend you can walk with heels like I am today. And after watching hundreds of podcasts working in the corporate world, I decided to pursue also public speaking as my passion, and came with 5 takeaways for today. So let me start with number 1. Ask why. I'm standing here today in front of you, and I actually know my purpose. I want to pursue my calling. So when you actually know why you're on stage, you own the stage instead of the stage owning you. Number 2 is caring about your audience. The reason I chose the word care is because it goes a step forward instead of only knowing your audience. What do I mean by that? Looking at all of your faces now, my hope and my dream right now is that you actually leave inspired, that you understand my message and that it came across. The third takeaway for today is visualizing. After reading a couple of books and presenting myself, I thought of having an end in mind. So basically when you're presenting and you know why you're on stage and you visualize, you're not maybe Steve Jobs or Serena Williams, but still you really want to get your message across, you visualize that you're going to give the best you can, which I'm trying as well today. The fourth, and for me this is one of the most powerful strategies, is storytelling. I cannot tell you much about it because I used it myself in the beginning. I told you a story. I was vulnerable, and I just said my story when I was 17 back then. And finally, if I want to close, it's basically my last key takeaway for today, is closing and closing well. What do I mean by that? Is basically giving your audience and your target group the best takeaways or the key message you want them to remember. So for today, there are 5 things that I would like you to leave with. The 5 steps we learned. So ask why is crucially important here. Caring about your audience, visualizing your presentation, storytelling, and closing. Basically, it's the icing on the cake. And for that reason, I've decided to pursue public speaking myself and to help people deliver a better message today, tomorrow, and the day after. And that's why I'm looking forward later on for a great discussion with you guys, and you can definitely reach out to me because I'm trying to pursue it myself besides the corporate world I'm in. So I'll be very happy to answer your questions. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what topic you're talking about, you might start unforgettable and actually end the same way as well. Thank you. I didn't like public speaking before, as I mentioned, and I was very terrified about it until I actually gained more confidence and I thought about communication as a stream which you can use the stage wherever you are to deliver the best things you want to do. So for me, public speaking is a channel for me to connect with you guys, to connect with my audience and to deliver the most powerful message I can. And if I go one step even more, public speaking is my calling. It's something that I aspire to, and I just love when I feel there is a bond and people left the room inspired, motivated, felt that they actually can drive their life themselves instead of being driven by society. And that's for me one of the biggest, or my biggest purpose in life. Yes.
Why do you think giving like the best is so good? Why do you think, like, because I think even trying to give the best makes you shiver and makes you uneasy. If you try to give a little less and be a bit more comfortable on stage, is it not better then?
I actually believe it can be in the middle. It depends, at the end of the day, how do you find the word best? For me, the best is not being here standing and making no mistakes, because I'll be lying if I said I delivered a perfect speech, because I definitely forgot a few lines and points that I wanted to say. But still, it's about being genuine, it's being authentic, and actually connecting with your audience. And for example, if I'm standing right here talking about blockchain, and I ended up with good questions, or talking about sustainability, talking about what does this do to the community, then it actually drives interest, and driving interest takes you to another step. So at the end of the day, it really depends how do you define the word best. But for me, best is just being authentic and just giving what you've got and connecting with you. So I hope that in that way even I answered your question, and that is for me what I want at the moment. It may not be the perfect answer as well, but even here I'm trying to give it my best.
Thanks.
Sure. Yes, please.
What are elements of great storytelling?
For me, one of the things that really helped me was one book I read, Talk Like TED, and it actually talks a lot about storytelling. So for me, storytelling, you can actually start with your own story, because when you start with your own story, you're being yourself. And you're not trying to remember bits and pieces and dates and names and numbers, but you're actually there stating facts. And the second part of storytelling is about emotions. So you want your audience right here to be with you and be part of your story. So maybe when I was trying to tell you about the day when I was 17 and talking to 1,200 people, my wish at that moment is that you were part of that audience 10 years back, and that you can visualize. So I think visualization, emotion are like the biggest two parts or two elements of a good story. Yes, please. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah. What would be your advice to all of us who engage in public speaking, but while doing so have to speak our second or third language? So if my first language is, let's say, English,
Yeah.
but I have to speak German, or my first language is German, and I have to present in Spanish or Chinese.
That's a good question, because I faced that in the company I worked with a while ago, where I had to deliver a speech in German, and German is not my mother tongue either. And I really felt at first it's not going to be as good as an English presentation, but to be honest, it's first about having a confidence boost and believing in yourself. This helped me a lot. And the second thing I really felt would actually boost your presentation is getting feedback. So maybe you can like rehearse the presentation, especially if it's not your mother tongue at that moment, with someone who's been, like, for example, a German, and would give you feedback on the spot and tell you bits and pieces of how you can work on that. And the third thing, it's not about the language, it's about the content. So it might not be your mother tongue, but if you have a great story, if you have something that is worth telling, people will not really care about how nervous you are, what did you say, if you make mistakes or not, was the grammar perfect or not. It's about basically getting your point across, and that's what matters at the end of the day. Sure. Do it.
We still have one more minute.
Further questions?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So at times the problem is not about the confidence but about the subject. So there are times where I feel like, what should I speak about? I mean, I have nothing to speak about. That's the usual thought that comes in. So, how do people even, like, what do you suggest that, what's the best way to find a topic to speak about? Should it be something that everybody can relate to, or should it be something that I care about? So what's a good balance between these two?
I think it starts basically with what are your hobbies, what are you passionate about? Because if you're standing here, for example, today, and I'm working as a data analyst in a marketing team, for example, but I know absolutely nothing about, I don't know, neurons, and trying here to deliver a speech about that, most probably you guys will be bored or not listen. So I think it's a middle ground, finding what is your interest and why are you there. So if you remember the steps I started with before, asking why, so actually knowing why you're there gives you, like, you convince yourself first, and if you're convinced that you own the stage, then pretty much your target group or your audience will connect with you as well. So I think it's a balance, and I really believe that everyone has a story to tell. So if you have, okay, yeah. So basically it's about even your story, because each one of us here today has a unique story. And for example, I know that you're from India and an expat. Maybe you can even start speaking about your experience in Germany as an Indian and what you've encountered so far. I think every expat would love to hear it, and on the other hand, the Germans would love to see how you integrated with the society. So maybe it's a good start. Thank you.